Out of over 10,000 sales professionals, sales leaders, company owners, executives, and the United States Army soldiers that my company FPG has trained, I can tell you today that change in behavior comes down to answering just two simple questions. These two simple questions are asked 100% of the time to anyone who is asked to ever do anything, like anything, that they haven't tried before. Now, these two questions are most of the time not asked out loud, but they're asked internally through our self-talk. Have you ever noticed that you got this voice in your head that is speaking to you? And some of you listening right now didn't even know you had an inner voice. That's actually true. Others of you ignore your inner voice, and the rest of you have a hard time turning that inner voice off, like when you're trying to sleep. Regardless of which one of these scenarios is you, we all have an inner voice, and that inner voice is always answering these two questions anytime we are considering doing anything that is outside of our comfort zone. So right now, write in the comment section yes if you hear your inner voice, or no if you don't. All right, in this video, I'm going to give you what these two questions are, plus a 6-step protocol that I use to leverage these two questions to accomplish anything, and I do mean anything, that I desire. I'm also going to show you how you are answering these two questions regardless if you like it or not, which means if you are not consciously aware of your answer to these two questions, then you are sabotaging yourself and you don't even know it. What I mean is, have you ever set a goal for yourself to lose weight, to get stronger, or sell more, only to find yourself starting strong towards the achievement of that goal, like maybe in January, but then all of a sudden you lose motivation to follow through with your goal? You wake up one day and all of a sudden realize that the goal you set, just stop kind of putting effort towards. It's almost as if someone decided for you that you should stop trying to achieve your goal, even though in this case, that person was you. That person was your subconscious version of you. So think of your subconscious version of you like your computer's operating system. The operating system only does what it's programmed to do, and if the programs are not producing the correct information, then you must upgrade the operating system. See, to me, this is like a perfect metaphor for what happens when you self-sabotage. Your subconscious operating system is answering these two questions to decide what it should do. And depending on how it answers these two questions, well, it produces a series of kind of next steps. And those next steps for us humans are the actions and behaviors that we take. So, as you can see, these two questions are deeply encoded inside of all of us. But the amazing news is once you know the questions, you can accomplish most anything you set your mind to. So in this video, I'm going to share with you how I first learned of these questions and how I use them to accomplish my personal goals and help thousands of others accomplish theirs too. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jason Forrest, CEO of FPG.com, where we recruit salespeople, train them, and build, of course, the best sales teams on the planet that want to be known for as having the best sales experience in their industry. I do these videos because I don't want you to waste your money on bad sales advice. So I want to offer you advice that's better for free. And of course, if you find value in these videos, then contact us so we can show you how many more sales you can make when we charge you. All right, now back to today's lesson. Here's how I stumbled upon the first of these two questions. The year is 2009, which was a tough economic year for all industries. Like, go back to that for a second. Remember like how much pain that was. But especially for the housing market. And I had just started my sales training and consulting company that focused on, the housing market. So at the same time, I was writing my second book, which was a lot of work. And I had these two babies at home that were very, very young. And I was in this very intensive speaker coaching program with the masterful Steve Siebold, where I had to spend about 8 hours a week writing and videotaping my speaker stories. And then I had turned them into Steve so he could basically tell me all the things that I was doing wrong. He'd rip them apart and tell me how, of course, I could do better, but he was pretty direct. It wasn't a soft coaching program. So I was getting a little overwhelmed, as you can imagine. And so I thought the best thing for me to do was to kind of put a pause on my speaker training, which is what people do, right? Whenever they're overwhelmed, they want to put the brakes on. They want to kind of slow down and kind of take the distractions out of their life. So I went to Steve and I said, hey, let me tell you what's going on. We're in this horrible economy and I'm trying to get my sales training business up and going. I got a premature baby at home and another baby on top of that. And so I just want to kind of pause being in this training program with you. Look, I could really use the extra 8 hours per week just for other things. It's right now, honestly, Steve, it's just impossible to do all of this at the same time. So Steve says, hey, no problem, Jason, but let me ask you one thing. Is it impossible or just impossible for you? What I mean is, if Tom Brady, if Michael Jordan, if Oprah Winfrey had just as much going on as you, could they handle it? So I said, yeah, of course they can handle it. So he said, again, Jason, is it impossible or just impossible for you? And I said, well, it's just impossible for me. So I stayed in the coaching program and in 12 months became the second youngest member of the $1 million qualified club of National Speakers Association. There's like 5,000 kind of speakers in the world, but only less than 200 qualify by making over $1 million a year in speaker-related revenue. And so I got to be in that exclusive club to make that kind of qualification. So the first question that I ask, and you ask, and we all ask, whenever we're confronted with doing more than we are currently doing is it possible to do this? Like, is it possible to do this? So what I learned that day is anytime I ask myself, is it possible? I then ask myself, is there anyone else on the planet, and again, it's a big planet, I don't know everyone, that is doing what I'm trying to do? And the answer is always yes. Even if I don't know the person, I'm sure someone out there is doing something that I would like to do. Now, that leads me to the second question that we all ask ourselves once we realize something is possible. And that question is, wait for it. Well, before I tell you what it is, I want to tell you where I learned it. And that is, I learned it from my neuro-linguistic programming trainer, Susan Stageman, which in my opinion is the best NLP trainers that are out there. But I was in one of her classes working on my master practitioner certification, which is like thousands of hours of certification every single weekend. It was extremely intense, but again, I digress. So I was working with her and I said, hey, Susan, I'm struggling with coaching one of my clients, because what we would do, we would basically bring her to her kind of our struggles that we were having with kind of our NLP coaching practice, working with our clients, and then she was our master trainer. So she would of course give us her experience, her wisdom on how she would have handled it, which is super helpful and a great way to learn. So basically I told her, I said, hey, he wants to double his sales income, but he's lacking belief in himself. And I said, so Susan, of course, I helped him realize that it's possible to double his income by showing him like all the other salespeople in his same circumstance that are selling double like what he's trying to do. So I had all the evidence and I showed him it was possible. But Susan, he still doesn't execute the advice that I gave him. Why not? And Susan said, because he doesn't believe he is capable. He said, you're right, Jason. First, he must be convinced that it's possible for him to sell more. But then he is asking himself, is he personally capable of selling more? So I said, how do I convince him that he's capable? And she said, by having him show you examples of things he can do now that he couldn't do before, and how he went about creating more internal resources so he could do those things. Look, you need him to tell you, how did he change his thinking, his attitudes, his beliefs, his values? How did he change his language, his self-talk to himself and others? And how did he change his processes and behaviors to become better than he was before? So you need to show him that he's capable of achieving more, but he just needs to kind of add more internal resources. So if he did it in the past, again, he could do it again. All right. So one of the underlying beliefs of NLP that really changed my life, and I'll share it with you right now, and I say it to myself and I say it to everyone, honestly, probably hundreds of times a week, and that is, we are all doing the best we can with the internal resources that we have. Think about that. We're all doing the best we can with the internal resources we have. And those internal resources are what we think about, what we say, and what we do. Those are our internal resources. At the same time, there's a second part of this quote, and that is positive change always comes from adding more resources. And what that means is, whenever you up-level your thinking, you up-level your vocabulary, you up-level your questions that you ask others, your statements, your language patterns, when you up-level those things, you up-level your actions, nothing negative ever happens. Meaning you don't go back in sales. You don't start doing worse because of it. So positive change always comes from adding more resources. I really like that part, because to me, it's like, think about this. If someone right now offered you and said, hey, if you give me $100, I guarantee you that you will not lose that $100, but you have a probability of doubling your $100. Meaning that if you give me $100, your probability is very high that you're going to go to 200, but you have zero risk of actually losing $100. And so meaning that I will always give you back $100 because you have nothing to lose. That's what this quote means, is that when you add internal resources, you have nothing to lose. It's like you're making a bet on yourself with literally zero risk and only a positive upside. That's pretty cool. All right, so the two questions that we all ask ourselves, again, when we're ever challenged to do something that's out of our comfort zone, is either, again, it's either consciously or subconsciously, which means consciously is we're aware of ourselves asking these questions. Remember earlier when I said, are you aware of your self-talk? Are you aware of what you say to yourself? Well, that would be you're consciously aware of these questions and how you're answering these questions. Or most of us actually are answering these questions subconsciously. And we're kind of on autopilot in the sense of, can we do something or not do something? So again, if it's subconsciously, it means we're not aware of it, which is a problem because we need to fix that immediately. We don't want our life being controlled by some sort of subconscious program like we're a victim of our own mind. We don't want that. So again, here are the two questions that we always ask ourselves, consciously or subconsciously. Number one, is it possible for me to do blank? Is it possible for me to do blank? And number two is, am I capable of doing blank? So here is a 6-step protocol that I use whenever I'm confronted with a goal that is outside of my comfort zone and I'm unsure if I can achieve it. And to make this interactive for you, right now, I want you to think of something that you want to achieve right now. It could be increasing your conversion rate by 50%, or running towards every single objection and bringing them up before the prospect brings them up, which is really the most effective strategy, or proactively asking everyone you meet to buy something from you versus waiting, of course, for them to ask you what the next step is. So right now, just think about that, and I want you to write that goal down. See, writing the goal down will make it more real for you. All right, now on to step two. Step two is about writing out how you feel about achieving that goal. Meaning, we are an emotional being, and so it's not about just what we want to achieve, it's about how we feel about what we want to achieve. So right now, are you anxious? Are you worried? Are you uncertain? You're thinking, but Jason, why are all the emotions you just listed negative? Well, that's because if you feel confident, like if I feel confident and certain, then, and you wrote that down, then I would tell you right now, if you're in front of me, to pick a different goal for this exercise. Because if you're confident about achieving something, then that means that it's inside of your comfort zone. And right now, this protocol is for you when you have a goal outside of your comfort zone that you're unsure about. Okay, now back to our regularly scheduled program. I've always wanted to say that because I'm a kid from the 80s and that was always said. All right, step three is write out how you want to feel instead. Meaning, when you look at the goal and the idea of achieving the goal, you want to feel, of course, positive emotions like confidence, excitement, certainty, kind of resolve, determination. So right now, when you are aware of your current emotional state around a goal, you are bringing awareness of your starting point. But then when you declare how you want to feel in the future about your goal, you're programming your reticular activating system in your brain to start moving towards this feeling. So think of your emotions like a carrier wave to your goals. It's like a wave in the ocean, right? And you're moving towards something and the surfer is trying to get towards that goal, right? Well, the emotions is the wave in order to make that happen. All right, step four, ask yourself, is it possible to achieve this goal? Is there anyone that I know or that I don't know personally that is doing what I want to do? Like, for example, if you don't know personally Tom Brady or Elon Musk or Richard Branson, you would still ask if Tom Brady or Elon Musk or Richard Branson put his effort and focus, towards this thing that I'm trying to accomplish, then, could they do it? Huh, it's pretty cool, right? So again, you're going to borrow their resources and borrow their capabilities. Step five is you're going to ask yourself, do I think I'm capable of achieving this goal? When you ask this question, you are asking yourself, how much do you believe in you? How much do you believe in you? What a great question. So you're doing the best you can right now with the internal resources. Again, what you think about, say, and do. You're doing the best you can. And positive change always comes from adding more internal resources. So what are some of those internal resources that you need to master that the people who are already doing what you want to do already have? Like, for example, do you need to memorize a sales script? Do you need to learn better questions? Do you need to improve your presence when you're speaking with a prospect, like being all in, giving them full attention? You know, what are they reading? Like, what are the people that you want to emulate that are achieving the things you want to achieve? What are they reading and learning that you could start reading and learning as well? You know, what are they studying that you could study and, again, become just like them? Remember, you're doing the best you can with the internal resources you have. And those resources are what you think about, say, and do. So if you just up-level your thinking, speaking, and actions, then you will up-level your results. All right. Do you remember the scene in The Matrix where Neo needed to learn Kung Fu for this next big battle? Well, so what do? He programmed himself with Kung Fu. See, that scene is exactly what happens when you need to decide to up-level your internal resources. You just decide, commit, follow through, and boom, now you know Kung Fu of whatever that sales technique is that you're wanting to learn. And that leads to step 6. You must commit and follow through. Whatever you do in life, just commit and follow through. Be all in. There you have it. That is my 6-step protocol that I use whenever I want to reprogram my hard drive to achieve my next level goal. So right now, put up these 2 questions. Is it possible and am I capable somewhere so that you can see them every day and decide, like what a great word is to decide. Decide right now to follow this 6-step protocol and watch what happens to your future. This is Jason Forrest. Push yourself to become a better version of you.